The champagne flute slipped from my trembling fingers and shattered against the marble floor of the grand ballroom like a gunshot in a cathedral. Heads turned, whispers rippled through the crowd of fur-clad socialites and tuxedoed tycoons. But all I could see was him, Carson Hale, the CEO whose face had graced every business magazine cover from here to Silicon Valley, staring at me with eyes that held a storm I never saw coming. "You," he said, his voice cutting through the orchestral swell of Silent Night like a blade, "are either the bravest fool in New York or the answer to a prayer I stopped believing in years ago. I wasn't supposed to be here, not at the Hale Foundation's annual Christmas gala, held in the gilded bowels of the Plaza Hotel, where the air smelled of evergreen boughs, aged scotch, and the faint desperation of the ultra-wealthy trying to buy their way into goodwill. I was Justin Riley, 25 years old, scraping by on barista wages and the occasional gig walking dogs in the village. My apartment a shoebox above a laundromat that reeked of bleach and broken dreams. Christmas had always been a solo affair for me. Ramen noodles under a string of dollar store lights, scrolling through Instagram feeds of families I envied from afar. But this year, desperation had dressed up as opportunity. It started with a mix-up, the kind of clerical error that sounds like a rom-com plot but feels like a gut punch in real life. My roommate, Lena, a temp at some nonprofit, had scored an invite for her +1, but she'd bailed last minute for a family thing upstate. In a haze of holiday loneliness and one too many spiked eggnogs at our local dive, I swiped her name tag, slipped into the ill-fitting suit I'd bought off the rack at Men's Warehouse, and waltzed through the velvet ropes like I belonged. Or at least like I could fake it for one night. The name tag read Lena Vasquez +1, and no one batted an eye at the door. Why would they? In a sea of Botox and heirlooms, one more anonymous face was just noise. The ballroom was a fever dream of opulence. Crystal chandeliers dripping like frozen waterfalls, tables groaning under silver-domed tureens of foie gras and caviar that probably cost more than my annual rent. Waiters in crisp white glided like ghosts, and the string quartet played Vivaldi remixed with jingle bells. I hovered near the edges at first, nursing a pilfered glass of bubbly, my heart hammering as I scanned for an escape route. That's when I saw the table, the one marked reserved, Hale Inner Circle. Empty, save for a single place setting aglow under a poinsettia centerpiece. My feet moved before my brain could veto, drawn by the magnetic pull of warmth and light. I sat, unfolding the linen napkin like it was a treasure map, and for a fleeting moment, I let myself pretend. Pretend I was someone who mattered, someone who could afford the lie. The shatter pulled me back. The flute, swiped from a passing tray, had betrayed me mid-sip, shards scattering like brittle stars across the Aubusson rug. Laughter bubbled up from nearby clusters, sharp and judgmental, and I felt heat flood my face. "Oh God," I muttered, dropping to my knees to gather the pieces, my borrowed cufflinks scraping the floor. That's when his shadow fell over me, broad and unyielding, blocking the chandelier's gleam. "Need a hand." His voice was low, laced with that Midwestern rumble CEO's effect after too many boardrooms in the Big Apple. Smooth gravel like bourbon over ice. I looked up, and there he was, Carson Hale, 42 if the profiles were right, with salt and pepper hair cropped close, a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes the color of Lake Michigan on a stormy day. He wasn't smiling, not exactly, but there was a crinkle at the corners, a spark that said he'd seen worse spills than this. Sorry?" I stammered, my cheeks burning hotter than the Yule log crackling in the hearth. "Wrong table. Won't happen again." I scrambled up, clutching jagged glass in my palm, blood welling in a thin red line. He didn't move, just tilted his head, appraising me like I was a quarterly report with unexpected upside. "Wrong table? This one's mine. And you're bleeding." Before I could protest, he plucked a monogrammed handkerchief from his breast pocket, initials each embroidered in gold, and pressed it into my hand, his fingers brushing mine with a warmth that sent a jolt straight to my toes. Up close, he smelled like cedar and success, the kind of cologne that whispered power without shouting it. "I'm Carson," he said, as if I needed the introduction. The room seemed to hush around us, the quartet's violins fading into white noise. "Justin," I replied, voice steadier than I felt. "And I really should. Stay." It wasn't a question. He gestured to the seat I'd vacated, the one with my name tag absurdly pinned to the chair back like a scarlet letter. Unless you're allergic to awkward introductions. I hesitated, the weight of 100 eyes on my back. But those eyes, his eyes, held me captive. There was something raw there, unguarded in a way that didn't match the polished facade of the man who'd built an empire on renewable energy startups. So I sat. And that's when the night cracked open, spilling secrets neither of us were ready for. We talked, or rather, he drew me out like a confession from a safe. Carson leaned back in his chair, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms tanned from yacht weekends I could only imagine, and asked about me. Not the polite patter of small talk, but real questions. What kept me up at night? The dreams that paid in caffeine and hope? I spilled it all. The foster homes that spit me out at 18. The community college dropout chasing a graphic design degree that never materialized. The quiet ache of holidays spent wondering if family was just a word for other people's luck. He listened, really listened, his gaze never straying to the schmoozers circling like sharks. "You're not like them," he said at one point, nodding toward a cluster of Botoxed blondes air-kissing over trust funds. "You see the strings. The puppet show behind the gala." I laughed, a real one, the first in months. "And you?" The puppet master himself, slumming it with the +1 crashers. His smile faltered, just a flicker, like a cloud over the moon. Slumming it? Not escaping it. He swirled his scotch, ice clinking softly. "This whole thing, it's my mother's legacy. Widowed young. She clawed her way into these circles to fund scholarships for kids like you. Now it's my circus, and I'm just the ringmaster trying not to burn it down." There it was, the first thread of vulnerability. Carson Hale, the wunderkind who turned a wind farm patent into a billion-dollar green tech behemoth, confessed he was fraying at the edges. Boardroom battles, a recent divorce from a socialite who traded him in for a senator, the isolation of a penthouse that echoed like a tomb. "Christmas used to mean something," he murmured, eyes distant. "Snow in Chicago, my dad stringing lights while mom baked pies that tasted like home. Now, it's just another ledger entry." Our knees brushed under the table. Accidental at first, then not, and neither of us pulled away. Electricity hummed between us, subtle as the bass line in "Oh Come All Ye Faithful," but undeniable. He was out, I learned later, in the way that mattered to Elias but not to the tabloids that still paired him with starlets for clicks. Me? I kissed a guy once in college, fumbled through apps that ghosted faster than my paychecks, but nothing like this. Nothing that felt like fate disguised as a felony trespass. As dessert carts wheeled by, flambéed crepes that ignited like tiny infernos, a photographer snapped us mid-laugh, Carson's hand on my shoulder steady as an anchor. "Smile for the ghosts," he quipped, but his touch lingered, thumb tracing the seam of my jacket. The night blurred into stolen moments. A dance on the periphery where his breath warmed my ear, whispering jokes about the mayor's toupee. A shared cigarette on the balcony, exhaling plumes into the December chill while the city glittered below like a promise. By midnight, as confetti cannons burst and toasts rang out to peace on earth, Carson slipped a card into my palm, his private line, scrawled in sharp ink. "Call me," he said, voice husky. "Not for the suit, for the shatter." It was the most honest thing that's happened here all year. I walked out into the snow-slick streets, heart pounding, the card burning a hole in my pocket. Little did I know that call would unravel everything, mine and his, in ways that would test if love could survive the weight of worlds colliding. The days after the gala blurred into a haze of what-ifs and reckless hope. I stared at Carson's card so long the edges curled, my thumb tracing the embossed Hale Enterprises logo like a talisman. Calling felt like jumping without a net, me. The broke barista with ink-stained fingers from doodling logos on napkins. Him, the kingpin whose morning routine probably involved private jets and power smoothies. But on December 26th, with the city digging out from under a foot of slush and my shift ending in a drizzle of rude customers, I dialed. "This is Justin," I said when his voice, live, not voicemail, crackled through. "The guy who turned your floor into a crime scene." His laugh was a lifeline. "The Shatterer returns. Coffee? My treat. Not the bodega swill, real stuff uptown." We met at a hole-in-the-wall roastery in Midtown, the kind with exposed brick and baristas who treated beans like holy relics. Carson arrived in jeans and a cashmere sweater that hugged his frame just right. No entourage, just him. Disheveled in the best way, like he'd rolled out of a board meeting straight into my orbit. Over flat whites that cost more than my lunch budget, we talked for hours. Not gala platitudes, but the marrow, his fear that green tech was just lipstick on a dying planet, my sketches for eco-apps that could democratize solar installs for tenements like mine. "You're a visionary trapped in a barista's apron," he said, eyes locking on mine with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. That intensity simmered, unspoken but electric. Our hands brushed reaching for the sugar, and the air thickened, charged like the moment before a storm breaks. He was the first man to look at me not as a curiosity or a fling, but as an equal, flawed, fierce, full of fire. By the time we parted, he'd invited me to his office for feedback on my designs. But the way his gaze lingered on my lips said feedback was the last thing on his mind. The next weeks were a whirlwind, a secret syllabus in stolen time. Mornings bled into his sleek tower overlooking Central Park, where I'd perch on a leather couch sketching while he paced conference calls, stealing glances that made my skin hum. Evenings were ours. Walks along the reservoir bundled in scarves he'd found in his closet, silk, monogrammed, reeking of old money, debating everything from climate accords to the best greasy spoon for midnight fries. Carson opened up like a book I'd never dreamed of reading. His closeted college years in conservative Chicago, the divorce that gutted him when his ex outed their arrangement to climb the social ladder, the bone-deep loneliness of success that echoed my own foster kid isolation. "You're my North Star, Justin," he confessed one night over takeout Thai in his penthouse. The skyline a constellation beyond floor-to-ceiling glass. We sat cross-legged on the rug, boxes of pad CEW between us, his knee pressed against mine. "In this concrete jungle, you remind me why I started. Making the world less broken, one what at a time." I swallowed hard, heart thumping. "And you're the first person who's seen me as more than a survivor story." Our fingers intertwined then, tentative then sure, a bridge across chasms of class and caution. No grand gestures, just the quiet poetry of two souls sinking. His lips brushed my temple, a whisper of a kiss that tasted like possibility, and I leaned in, the world narrowing to the beat of us. But shadows loomed, insidious as the January fog rolling off the Hudson. Carson's world wasn't built for interlopers like me. His assistant, Victoria, a razor-sharp brunette with an MBA from Wharton and eyes like daggers, eyed me at every drop-off, her smiles thin as credit card statements. "Mr. Hale's schedule is grueling," she'd say, handing over a visitor badge like it was parole papers. And then there was Marcus, Carson's best friend and CFO, a silver fox with a laugh like thunder, and a grip on the company that bordered on possessive. Carson's got enemies in the boardroom. He'd worn over drinks I'd been awkwardly included in, his hand clapping my shoulder a beat too hard. "You seem genuine. Just don't get in the way of the machine." I brushed it off as paranoia, the outsider's itch. But cracks spiderwebbed. Late-night texts from Carson grew sporadic. "Stuck in Tokyo, miss your sketches," followed by radio silence that clawed at my insecurities. One February evening, after a gala I wasn't invited to, too political, babe next time. I waited in his lobby till closing, only to watch him emerge arm-in-arm with a venture capitalist, their heads bent in what looked too intimate for business. Jealousy gnawed, but love, raw, reckless, silenced it, until the betrayal hit like a freight train. It was mid-March, the city thawing into tentative spring, when I got the call. Not from Carson, but from Lena, my old roommate, voice breathless over the line. "Justin, check the post. Page 6. Oh God. My hands shook as I pulled up the app on the subway, the headline screaming, "Hale's holiday heartthrob? Mystery man crashes gala, steals CEO's spotlight." Grainy photos from that night. Me at his table, his hand on my shoulder, splashed across the digital rag, captioned with speculation that twisted our magic into tabloid trash. Who is the rags to riches Romeo? Sources say Hale's latest project. A barista with big dreams and bigger debts. My stomach plummeted. Debts? They dug credit reports, foster records, the eviction notice from last summer I'd buried under optimism. And worse, a sidebar photo of Carson at that recent gala, not with the VC, but locked in what looked like a clinch with Marcus, their faces blurred but unmistakable. Friends with benefits? Hale's CFO side hustle heats up amid merger talks. Betrayal burned hot and holy. Marcus, the best friend who'd grilled me over steaks, probing my intentions like a deposition? And Carson, had it all been a game? The North Star bullshit, the temple kisses, a rich man's whim, slumming with the poor kid till the spotlight shifted? I stormed to his tower that night, badge be damned, security trailing as I jabbed the elevator button. Victoria intercepted me in the lobby, her face a mask of pity. He's in a meeting with the board. This leak, it's blowing up. With Marcus, you mean? I spat, voice cracking. Tell him Justin's done playing fool. She hesitated, then sighed. It's not what you think, but go home, please. I didn't. I waited in the bitter rain outside, soaked to the bone, until Carson emerged. Tie loosened, eyes shadowed. He froze at the sight of me, then pulled me into the alcove, his coat draping my shivering frame. Justin, God, the article? It's bullshit. PR spin to bury the real merger drama. And Marcus. The words choked out, venom and vulnerability tangled. Your best friend with his tongue down your throat? His face crumpled, a titan felled. Not like that. A moment stupid years ago. He leaked the gala pics to force my hand on the merger. Thinks you're a distraction, that I'm going soft. He cupped my face, thumbs wiping rain or tears from my cheeks. But you're everything. I love you, Justin. Not as a project. As my future. Love. The word hung, fragile as cherry blossoms in the wind. I wanted to believe, to melt into him right there on the sidewalk. But doubt was a vine, twisting roots deep. Prove it, I whispered. Cut him out, or I'm gone. He nodded, fierce. Done. For you, for us. Spring unfurled in reluctant blooms, mirroring the tentative thaw between us. Carson moved like a man possessed, firing Marcus in a boardroom bloodbath that made Wall Street Journal headlines, restructuring Hale Enterprises to prioritize the democratized green initiatives we'd brainstormed over late-night coffees. This is your legacy too, he'd say, pulling me into his office after hours, our sketches pinned to white boards like battle plans. The leaks dried up, the tabloids moved on to fresher scandals, and slowly trust rebuilt brick by brick. But love, real love, isn't a straight line. It's a maze with dead ends and decoys. Carson's world kept encroaching. Endless trips to D.C. for policy pitches, galas where I'd stand awkwardly in tailored suits he insisted on buying, feeling like an exhibit in the Hale Zoo. You're not arm candy, he'd murmur, hand at the small of my back. You're the reason I fight. And God, those fights. The quiet ones, over his 70-hour weeks leaving me to cold sheets, or my insecurities flaring when a colleague's email pinged too late at night. We'd clash, voices rising in the penthouse echo, then collapse into each other. Apologies sealed with forehead kisses and whispered, I can't lose yous. By summer, we'd carved out a rhythm. Weekends at his Hamptons escape where I'd wake to the crash of waves and his arms around me, sketching app prototypes while he grilled lobster we'd caught metaphors for, clawed from the sea, tender beneath the shell. He came out fully then, not with fanfare but authenticity. A company-wide memo on allyship, tying it to the foster kid scholarships his mom had championed. For kids like the one I love, he told me later, voice thick, as we watched fireworks burst over the dunes. So they know it's okay to be seen. I believed him. Hell, I lived it. The way his eyes softened when I ranted about gentrification swallowing my old neighborhood, or how he'd cancel calls to hear me read poetry from dog-eared Ginsberg volumes. We were opposites attracting, a poor kid from the projects and a CEO from the penthouse, but in the quiet spaces we fit. Laughter over burnt pancakes, tears over my buried traumas. He held space for it all, teaching me vulnerability wasn't weakness but the truest strength. Yet autumn whispered warnings, leaves turning as the merger fallout fermented. Whispers reached me through Lena, now dating a junior exec at Hale. Boards gunning for Carson. Say he's distracted, that the boyfriend bump is tanking stocks. I dismissed it. Our polls showed green initiative soaring, public approval at all-time highs. But doubt crept in during the long silences, when Carson stared out at the city lights, jaw tight. It's nothing, he'd say, pulling me close. Just ghosts. The climax crashed on a crisp November eve. The kind where the wind bites like regret. We'd planned a quiet anniversary. Our first, marked from that shattered flute. Dinner at our favorite bistro. Then a walk through Washington Square Park strung with early holiday lights. But Carson was late. Texts curt. Running behind. Board vote. By 9, worry nod. So I headed to the tower, badge clipped like armor. The lobby buzzed, security on edge, and Victoria waved me up with a haunted look. Elevator to the top. But Justin, brace. The boardroom was a coliseum of glass and greed. 20 suits circled like gladiators. Carson stood at the head, tie askew, facing a projector screen splashed with our faces. Me, laughing in his Hampton snapshots. Us, hand in hand at a charity run. Distraction, the chairman sneered. A fossil in pinstripes. Your pet project, Hale. Leaks say he's in it for the payout debts. Designs poached for our IP. My blood iced. Poached? Those sketches, my heart on paper, stolen? Carson's face blanched. But before he could speak, Marcus slunk from the shadows. Rehired? No, lurking like a bad sequel. I warned you, he drawled, eyes on me like venom. Love's a luxury in this game. I did it for the company, fed the doubts, planted the pics. He's poison, Carson. Cut him loose, or we cut you. Betrayal round 2 deeper, deadlier. Marcus, the moment from years ago, twisting jealousy into sabotage. He'd orchestrated it all. The original leak, the merger push, even anonymous tips to my creditors to keep me needy. Carson whirled on him, voice thunder. You're fired. Again. And sued into oblivion. But the board murmured, votes shifting like sand. Couldn't breathe, the room spinning. Carson. My voice, small, shattered the standoff. He turned, eyes meeting mine, raw, erect. Justin, save it. I backed toward the door, heart fracturing. You knew? About the designs? No. God, no. He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripping my arms. I fought for you. Every vote, every pitch. But they want blood. The board erupted. Motions, accusations. But we were adrift in the chaos. Foreheads pressed, breaths mingling. I love you, he whispered, fierce. Not the CEO. Me. Fight with me. Tears stung. Marcus's scheme had weaponized our love, turning intimacy into indictment. But in his eyes, I saw the man. Not the empire. The one who danced with me under chandeliers, held me through nightmares. Always, I said, voice steady. But we do it our way. No more secrets. We walked out together, hand in hand, the board's howls fading behind us. Flashes popped. Paparazzi tipped off. But we didn't flinch. That night, snow flurried early, blanketing the city in hush. On his rooftop, under the same strings of lights from the gala, we faced the storm. Carson resigned at dawn, not in defeat but defiance. Launching a rival firm, bootstrapped on our shared vision. Affordable green tech for the forgotten corners, scholarships woven with my story. Marcus, sued into exile, his moment, exposed in depositions that read like tragedy. It wasn't easy. We downsized to a brownstone in Brooklyn, my barista gigs funding the lean months while his startup sparked. Conflicts lingered. My trust scars flaring at investor meets, his ego bruised by demotion to founder status. But we built, layer by layer. Therapy sessions unpacking foster ghosts and boardroom wolves. Lazy Sundays sketching futures over diner hash. Christmas came again, a year from the shatter. No gala, just us. String lights in our tiny living room. A tree we'd chopped ourselves from a Jersey lot. Ornaments carved from scrap wood. Carson knelt by the hearth, pulling a box from his pocket. Not a ring, not yet, but a key. To the cabin in the Poconos, he said, eyes shining. Our North Star, away from the noise. I pulled him up, our kiss tasting of pine and promise. Deep, unhurried, the kind that mends. Outside, snow fell soft, blanketing old wounds. We'd lost an empire, gained a life. Betrayal had cracked us open. But love? It rebuilt us stronger, humanistic in its humility. 2 men, flawed and fierce, proving that the wrong table could lead to the right forever. In the end, It wasn't about wealth or worlds conquered. It was about choosing each other every damn day in the shatter and the shine. And as carols drifted from the street, "I'll be home for Christmas," I knew we already were.